Hello guys, this is Lydia, the lifestyle coach, and welcome to our live feed. I'm actually just going to pop in here today. This is just sort of a spur of the moment live feed. I saw an article go by that Jillian Michaels was quoted in, one of the trainers from that show, The Biggest Loser. And some of the things that she was saying, although I think that most people have good intentions, some of these ideas are so dangerous, and they are really a reflection of the society that we're in. And it's very important for anybody who is a friend to women, anybody who wants change, anyone who wants a better world. It is very important to understand the danger of these ideas and to be able to, as consumers of media and ads and opinions and information everywhere, it is extremely important for us to be able to be wise consumers in that way and to be able to evaluate an idea and challenge an idea and see the danger in it. And so something needs to be said. I mean, something has needed to be said and will continue to need to be said. But after seeing this article, I'm like, well, I guess we're going to do a live feed and talk about really what Jillian Michaels was saying here. So hi guys, so fun to see you on. Oh, so beautiful. Hi, oh my goodness, so many people on. Feel free to hearts and likes and say hello. And for those of you just joining, this is Lydia, the lifestyle coach. And I am the founder of Life with Lydia. And what we do is we end eating disorders using nothing but your brain. And this is binge eating, this is bulimia, overeating, body hate, food obsession. All of that can be ended with the simple principles of ending the cycle and creating a permanent change in that. And I want to really emphasize that because we are absolute masters. We are the best in the world at creating a long-term change where somebody can have a healthy relationship with food, a wonderful, peaceful, healthy relationship with their body, and be in physical health. Like, it's not something where, okay, well, if I accepted my body, then I would have to accept being unhealthy. No, it's through accepting your body. That's one piece of being able to be healthy. And so what Jillian Michaels was saying in this article is something that really fights against women and the progress in equality and the progress of being able to have true health. And it's a sadness because, I mean, she's a personal trainer. She's a symbol of health. So for her to be speaking these very dangerous ideas is important for us to examine. So let's go ahead and dive in. And I want to respond a little bit to what she said in this article, but then I also want you guys to understand one of the biggest fallacies that we have, one of the worst ideas that we approach, not just in becoming physically healthy or fixing our eating disorder, not just in that, but really anything in life. There's this idea that shame equals change, and we're going to break that down, and I'm going to show you exactly what is the truth of what happens to be able to have long-term change and how to stop this bad idea that will literally fight against any kind of progress you want to make in life. I want to just say that again. Any progress that you want to make in life, any new habit that you want to start, any old habit that you want to stop, this idea can get in the way to the point of you never fixing your problem if you still believe this. And so this is just a great time to talk about that. So hi guys, so fun to see you on, and let's go ahead and rock and get into it. So Jillian Michaels, she was trainer on The Biggest Loser show, which helped people through very extreme methods to be able to temporarily lose weight and do it in sort of a public way on television. And one thing that she talks about is the dangers of glamorizing obesity, and that she says that we're being politically correct to the point of endangering people. Whew. All right, so let's look at this for a second. So endangering people to do what, Jillian? Endangering people to accept themselves, their current size, endangering people like feeling like they are okay and acceptable. Notice how this is seen as a danger. This idea of thinking of a variance in body size, thinking of health at different sizes, is a danger to society in her mind, apparently, if what she said in her quote is reflecting what she actually thinks. So this is how I want you guys to just be really smart in this with anything that you look at, with anything that you consume, any sort of information. Whenever someone says that something shouldn't be done, just like Jillian saying we shouldn't glamorize obesity. If someone says it shouldn't be done, you must ask yourself, So what is the alternative? Follow that all the way out. That is going to be really important because there are so many bad ideas that people can put up their battle cry and be like, stop glamorizing obesity. And everyone goes, yeah. But without following that thought out of, so what is the alternative? What do you suggest that we do? So she goes on to say that no one should ever be body shamed or fat shamed or excluded, that everyone is equally deserving and shouldn't feel equally valuable. But notice how there were some good ideas there. And then she said, but. Okay, so what do you suggest, Jillian, is the thing that we need to put as a caveat to not leaning into accepting people and equally deserving and that nobody should be fat shamed? She said, but obesity in itself is not something that should be glamorized, but we've become so politically correct that no one wants to say it. All right. So notice how there's this idea of people should accept themselves how they are, but we shouldn't accept this. She's talking about obesity as like some other thing. Like obesity is, measured by somebody's BMI. It's this completely made up scale that has caused a lot of problems in the world. And we can go into that on a whole nother live feed. But let's just break this down. So we've become so politically correct, she says, and nobody wants to say it. Nobody wants to say what? Nobody wants to say that obesity shouldn't be glamorized. There are people shouting that from the rooftops. I mean, she's not alone. It's not like everyone's saying like obesity should be glamorized and she's saying that no, it shouldn't. Like this is very much this idea in the world of that size variance, that people who, especially women who are above a certain size, aren't okay, aren't accepted, and that anything should be done to battle with, even if it's very unhealthy, even if it's like the methods on The Biggest Loser, should be done to battle with this idea that being fat, being larger is okay, that that's just not okay. So notice how there's this sort of fuzzy feeling of like everyone should be accepted, everyone should be okay. And then she's like, but I mean, obesity shouldn't be accepted at all. And so obesity is referring to a size on the BMI chart. Plenty of people of that size that are in the obese category, for instance, the BMI chart is a very faulty and just has created a lot of problems, just a very faulty measure. So, if you take professional athletes that are just like so fit and so muscular and like with a body like that, they're considered obese on the BMI chart because of just its height and its weight. Like that's it. It's a measure where they're saying, okay, well, if you're in this place in the chart, then you're unhealthy. And if you're in this place, then you are healthy. But the thing is that there are so many people in that obesity category that are way more physically healthy than people who are in the normal range, I'm going to put that in quotes, or who are even lower. And I know that when I had my eating disorder, like I was so like measured on the BMI, right? If thinness is health, I wanted to be the most healthy. So I went down into the normal range and then I went to the very lowest of the normal range. I'm like, well, if I want to be even healthier, then let's go even past that. Let's go under the normal range. Look at how healthy I am, because every piece of fat on my body is something that makes me less healthy. So the less fat that I have, the more healthy that I am. And that's what created a life-threatening eating disorder. So that's the mentality around this. So what is the alternative, Jillian? If we shouldn't glamorize obesity, and if we shouldn't say that that's okay, and if we shouldn't say that people should accept their bodies where they're at, and if we shouldn't have people move into a place where they feel accepted or where we see body variance, what is the alternative? If you say that it's not okay, so the alternative is to not feel okay, is to not glamorize any sort of variance of bodies, to only glamorize one kind of body. It's to say, don't be fat, don't even approach it, avoid it at all costs, to you be bigger. It is literally, when they take surveys of women and their true ideas and how they feel about themselves, most women would choose being hit by a truck over gaining 20 pounds. That's a huge problem. That we have not only not glamorized obesity, but we have gone to the other extreme where we have made larger bodies of women a horror in our society that is to be avoided at all costs, even if it is a life-threatening thing. with extreme measures, do anything to not be fat, anything to not lose weight, anything, or to make sure that you lose weight, to not gain weight, right? Like, that's the mentality around this. Like the methods on the show where Jillian Michaels was a trainer, where the methods were super extreme, where almost everyone gained their weight back, where they had permanent metabolic damage. They canceled the show because there was so much heat against it because their methods were so extreme and damaging. And they've taken so much heat that now the show is coming back and they've completely, apparently, revised what they're doing because it was so unhealthy, and so dangerous with the methods that they used to use. So look at the ideas under this, right, you guys? Like, you've got to be able to hear what somebody says. And if they're saying we shouldn't do this, you've got to ask yourself, so what is the alternative? That's the first piece. So now I'm going to give you guys a really important fallacy to be able to see. This is a very faulty way of thinking that is an idea that, especially when New Year's resolutions come around or any sort of shame or any sort of change comes around, then we tend to act upon ourselves and others in this way that is making the problem, whatever it is, worse. And especially with our relationship with food, with our relationship with our bodies, with weight loss, any sort of goals that we have. And here is this very faulty idea that shaming someone, shaming ourselves will change their behavior to the positive. If I shame someone or if I shame myself, well, then I'm sure to change my behavior. Notice this awful fallacy just like soaking in Jillian Michaels' quotes in this article. It's just, oh, it's so bad. We shouldn't glamorize obesity. We can't say that that's okay, because this idea of we've got to tell everybody that this is not okay. We've got to have everyone who is in this category feel shame about it, because they'll change if they feel bad enough about themselves. They'll change if they feel enough shame. If we can get on TV and say, if you are this size, if you are this shape, you are wrong, you are not okay, enough shame will create change. And it's coming from a place that isn't a bad place. It's coming from a place of people want people to change. People want people to be healthy. But if you're doing that in a way that creates the opposite result and is so ineffective, you've got to look at the results that you're getting. How did that work for The Biggest Loser? How did that work for all of those people that gained all their weight back and have permanent damage to their bodies, where it was just like, you're not okay, go to the extremes, get on TV, declare in front of the whole world, I'm so not okay that I am going to go through all these extreme measures to change it. Notice how none of that was permanent, none of it stuck. So this fallacy of, if I shame myself for others, then they'll change for the better. They'll feel so bad that they'll do things better. It comes out as, oh, well, I can't say that that person looks nice that isn't thin. That's promoting bad habits. It's this underlying, I've got to make sure that there's shame there, there's no approval. And it comes both ways, right? You can shame someone, or you can just really show your disapproval, which is shaming someone as well. It's not just on the other side of that. So it comes out as, well, I can't say that it's okay that that fat person eats that food. It's condoning their behavior. This idea of, well, I can't say that they're okay. I can't say what they're eating is okay, because then it's just like me saying that it's okay. So I've got, what's the alternative? I've got to send the message that what they're eating, what they're doing is not okay, by creating shame and unacceptance around it. We do this to ourselves. I can't let myself buy a bigger size of pants, because that's giving up. That's letting myself go. That's saying it's okay to be bigger. And if I were to admit to myself, or if I were to feel like it's okay to be this size, well, then I'd never change. Well, then I would just be fat and happy forever and die of a heart attack next week, because I would accept my body. See how this idea just gets into all the stuff that we do of, I need to constantly berate myself, tell myself I'm not okay, that I'm awful, that my body isn't acceptable, remind myself of that all the time, because it's going to make me change. We are masters in the psychology around this. We are masters in what it takes to create permanent change. And that is the opposite way to do it. That is the worst approach, the absolute worst approach. Shame is the worst motivation for change. The worst. You can see this in so many examples. You can see this parents who shame their children for who they choose to be. It doesn't make them in alignment with how their parents want them to be. It shoots them into rebellion the other way. When we shame ourselves for, what we're eating, then it goes the other direction. We don't start eating real great and feel so peaceful. It starts giving us eating disorders. Shame is the worst motivation for change. Shame turns into secrecy. It's not that we're going to stop doing that bad behavior. We're going to feel so bad about it that we're going to do it in secret. This is why binge eating at night, binge eating in secret, eating in the closet, like all of those hiding behaviors come because there's shame. And so the shame turns into secrecy, and then the silence in that secrecy perpetuates the very habits that make it worse. If you want someone's problem to be worse, shame them about it. That is exactly what it does. And that is the message that Jillian Michaels is saying in this article of we've got to put shame around. Like, this is not okay. It's not okay to say it's okay. We've got to make sure that everyone knows that if they're this way, then they are unacceptable and they are not okay. Here's a real life example. If you guys want to try this out for yourselves and see how shame is the worst motivator. We call it the tight pants test. You guys might have already done this. It's, I don't fit into my pants anymore. It's totally unacceptable. I can't gain another pound. And so I'm going to put on these pants that I used to fit, that are way too tight, that are super uncomfortable, that just make me feel so horrible and have me spilling out over the top of them. And I'm going to wear these tight pants all day long so that every moment of the entire day, it is reminding me of just how awful I am, just how messed up. And then the idea, the fallacy, the false idea behind this is that it's going to motivate you into change. Well, I can't be uncomfortable all day and feel how tight my pants are and still be okay with eating in a way that's going to make me gain more weight. So all day you're telling yourself you aren't okay. You're reminding yourself your body is too big. You're just feeling like you should be shamed. These tight pants are just going to remind me of the shame around my body. Remind yourself of it over and over all day. And then see what happens to your eating that night. Just watch. Just see your human behavior and your psychology around food that evening. It is the easiest way to have a binge. You get home, you feel awful, you're irritated, your pants are still, as they have been all day, really uncomfortable. You feel so unokay with yourself, disgusted with your body, your skin is crawling. You make big declarations to yourself that you absolutely have to change this. And so, you know what? Let's just get rid of everything in the house. Let's just get rid of all the chocolate and all the candy and all the horrible stuff that got us to this place. And let's do it in secret after everyone's in bed with big declarations of we're going to do something extreme, like maybe I saw on a show like Biggest Loser. And we're going to start that tomorrow. But tonight, we're just going to have whatever we want because we're already disgusting and we're pigs and we're horrible. So let's just go the rest of the way. Shame is the worst motivator. Shame, physical abuse, those can have temporary effects. If you have a little kid and you say, hey, if you eat that, I'm going to hit you until you're unconscious, you know what? That little kid is probably not going to go and eat that right now. But imagine the relationship that little kid is going to have with that food when they're on their own and there isn't that person standing over them saying that they're going to beat them if they eat it. Shame is not a motivator for change, and it can never be a long-term result. It always swings back the other way. So, Jillian Michaels, what if we glamorized obesity? What is the worst that can happen? If we had a world where instead of glamorizing anorexic bodies and women just impossibly thin and women who are hired because of how thin they are and their bodies still aren't good enough, and so we airbrush them and we computer animate them so that they can be the kind of thin that is so impossible for even anorexic human beings to be, What if we flip that on its head, and instead of glamorizing women whose heads look so large because their bodies are so small, because they're in the skeletal place, women who we praise because we can see their ribs through their chest underneath their breast implants, with sharp shoulders that are so pokey because there's no fat or muscle in them at all, because that woman has great self-control. What a healthy gal. What if instead of glamorizing that and having that be the only image that our little girls see, what if we did glamorize obesity? What if you went to a movie and it had a steamy sex scene and the woman in there had a round body and rolls around her arms, and she was just this beautiful woman in the moonlight, and she was an obese woman, a healthy obese woman. And those are pretty much the only women that you see in sex scenes, because those are the hot ones. What if we glamorized obesity? What if every model that we saw, when we open a magazine, when we saw an ad on the internet, when we go to the mall, it's just posters and posters of obese women, just glamorized, just in all these fantastic clothes and amazing makeup and hair done to the nines. And those were the only kind of women that we saw. All the skinny ones were gone. We just glamorized obesity. What if down the red carpet, it's the Oscars, and we just see woman after woman after woman with thick legs and round bodies and just wonderful roundness in their faces, all dressed in these designer gowns and talking about how amazing their clothing is, and everyone praising how beautiful they are. And we didn't see actresses anymore that were thin. We just glamorized obesity. Obesity was just the most amazing, praised, incredible thing ever. And everyone's just shouting for joy that, wow, look at how obesity has been glamorized. That's how I want to be. And all the little girls that see this, they say, oh, I want a round body. Oh, I love how big her thighs are. Oh, I love how her thighs touch. Isn't it wonderful? Thigh gaps are gross. Not that we should body shame either way, but I'm talking about really turning this on its head. What would happen, Jillian Michaels, if we did glamorize obesity? Would we really be hurting people? Would we be hurting people more than glamorizing anorexia and eating disorders and to be thin at any cost? Would we be hurting people more than shows like The Biggest Loser, where people in front of the whole world are declaring that they're not okay and going to extreme measures and going and hurting themselves permanently and then still gaining all the weight back? How does that feel, to be a public figure and everyone to see you shrink down and then be larger than ever? There's a lot of shame around that. Would we really be hurting people more if we glamorized obesity? Understand, you guys, we have seen this hundreds and hundreds of times with our clients. They have held so much shame about their bodies, and more shame as time goes on. And the worse the shame is around their bodies, the worse their eating gets and the worse their health gets. Not because they fall into a size category that makes them suddenly unhealthy. It's because their behaviors are repeated unhealthy behaviors that make them unhealthy. Because you can take someone that is in a category that it says obese on the BMI chart, and they can start doing healthy behaviors, and even if their weight doesn't change, guess what? They become very healthy because they're doing healthy things. So we have seen literally hundreds and hundreds of women from all around the world where they're in this position, and they come to us and they learn how to break that pattern of shame. And not once in the entire history of Life with Lydia, with all of these hundreds of women free, not once have we had a woman break that pattern of shame and said, okay, great. Now I just feel really good about my binging, and now I'm just going to have bags of chocolate until I feel sick and I just feel grand about it. I'm just going to choose to keep doing it. It's never, ever happened. No one's ever thought it was awesome. They just took away the shame about it. And they learned the skill of being able to break the pattern and break the habit, not just of their eating disorder, but of shame. And once they learn how to be out of that, their eating, their health gets effortlessly better, effortlessly and naturally better. That is the result of removing the shame and breaking the cycle. And we have had women, like many times, where if they've had an elevated weight because of the way that they were eating, because of their eating disorder, that for the first time when they break that cycle, that their weight regulates back down and they effortlessly lose weight the first time in their life. And it had nothing to do with shame. So it didn't come back plus some, because the shame was gone around it. So a couple of things that we covered today, you guys, that are just so important is, one, examine what people are saying. You know, people that are these symbols of health in our society, like Jillian Michaels. She's this trainer, she's famous, she's on this show, and saying things like it's dangerous to glamorize obesity and it's hurting people. Ask yourself the question, so what is the alternative? And see if you agree with that. Be wise in this. Be wise, and it will change the world, and it will uplift women, and it will help in this cause that we are part of ending eating disorders on this planet. And then the other thing is really look at this logical fallacy. Look at this very bad idea that shame will create positive change. It is the worst motivator. It is the worst long-term motivator of any sort of change. Any sort of real change that we want to make and health that we want to gain and that we want to keep has to remove the shame, because that will never keep us in a place that we want to be. It might get you a result temporarily, but it's one that will have long-term negative consequences once you go back the other way, and then the shame is even stronger. This is why women give up on their own lives. This is why eating disorders kill people. Because you can only swing back so many times. You can only make a declaration of, I'm going to lose this 100 pounds and then do it and then gain back 120 pounds. So many times. You can only so many times say, I will never binge again. And then do it again the next night and again the next night for 45 years straight. You can only so many times check yourself into some center and declare that there's something so wrong with you and have people tell you that you're probably just going to have this eating disorder for the rest of your life. And then come home and act in that exact same way, even when you were hoping that maybe there was hope for you. You can only do that so many times and still have that fire stay united. And that knowing that you can be okay and continuing to search. We know exactly how to end eating disorders. It is a simple science that we have perfected. It is predictable. We know that when a woman does these 3 things and when she knows how to do it and break the cycle, that she can be done no matter how long it's been. The danger is the women who don't come to us because they've already given up hope because of these sorts of ideas in the media of that we should shame our bodies and that we shouldn't be okay with it, and that glamorizing obesity or telling somebody that they're okay, and not just like cinching down harder and harder this idea that health is thinness and acceptability is thinness, and being okay means you're thin enough, and being beautiful means you're thin enough. You've got to be able to let go of those ideas and know how to do it and really help the world to change in a way that's going to be sustainable. So this is Lydia, the lifestyle coach, and really be thinking about those 2 things, you guys, especially over this season. If you're listening to this sort of when it came out live over the holiday season, over the new year, and if you are sick and tired of having these bad ideas keep you in a lifelong struggle with food, you can end it now. You can go to lifewithlydia.com/apply. Again, that's lifewithlydia.com/apply. And we're going to work one-on-one with you of getting the absolute foundation for freedom so that you can be done with this struggle. And you don't have to be a statistic of someone else who gave up hope because they didn't fix this soon enough. There's never a better time than right now to break the cycle. It will never be more convenient. It will never be easier to fix. There will never be enough people in your life that don't need your help anymore, that now you can work on yourself. It's your time right now. You can go to lifewithlydia.com/apply and book a free session with us, where we will help you and serve you in that foundation of freedom so you can be done with this for the rest of your life and live the life that is worth living that you deserve. All right, Lydia, the lifestyle coach, signing off. Mwah. Bye, guys.